Hello, everyone. It is Saturday, the 2nd of September, 2023. And I'd like to wish someone, I'm not going to say the name so that you can get more information from me, but someone that I really love a very special happy birthday. And get that out of the way before I get into negative news. Oh my goodness, I'm just looking at my phone. If anyone's wondering why I'm looking away, my apologies if that's rude. I'm still learning how to be live. um, I'm looking at health advisories that are being submitted to me, and it's frustrating because there are still people that are working as experts and healthcare professionals and leaders of organizations that are the same ones that got us in this mess. And Mark Twain and many others said, right, like it's sorry. Oh, okay, so my Rumble live stream. Oh, I'm gonna have to remove it. Oh, damn it. Anyway, so it's just gonna be on or maybe I'll try another one. I'll try another. I'm sorry if I'm talking to are there any positive news? Um the positive news is I'm trying to give information to people that's heavily censored in Canada at risk to myself regarding information that I don't believe a lot of people are getting on the mainstream media. And no, it's not gonna work today. That sucks. Okay, so Mark Twain, I'm just gonna say the changes. It was along the lines of it's easier to fool people than to convince than to let them know that they've been fooled. It's along those lines. So I'm just paraphrasing, and which is frustrating. So there's a lot of people again that are still in the judicial systems, legislative positions, cabinet members, and again experts in multiple different organizations here that have been the ones reinforcing like these mandates and these lockdowns and these mask mandates and all this other stuff, right? And they were picking and choosing who was considered to be of value to society, and it was clear that there was a comedy of errors, and so they're just doubling down a lot of people, unfortunately, and it's frustrating because the people that where you'd have like a more like you'd have like a more representative model of the country. You have anyone that resisted the mandates or opposed the lockdowns or didn't get vaccinated, even if it was for religious reasons, and or the concerns because of the adverse side effects that were coming out of multiple different countries with the studies that they were doing. It was still like these people were kicked out and or suspended or charged or put in positions where they're not able to make any changes or impact any of the policies or decision making, unfortunately. And so if this all comes again, it's going to be even less resistance because anyone that was seen as resistance again was penalized, punished. Even though the Freedom Convoy, I'll go back to that, right? It was bought for and paid for and planned and staged by the same people that did the same things for like the Antifa, Black Lives Matter stuff. Again, Susan Rosenberg, other people that are extreme leftists and communists that have also been like put up on charges for even bombing buildings. And so people need to look at these people that are heads of these organizations and see what's going on with that. The Capitol riot again, that was something that was staged and planned. And people like Tucker Carlson and Jimmy Dore, and myself and others have released footage even of again Ray Epps and other people within government. Unfortunately, not good people, because again, I work with and around government, and I have for over 20 years of my life. Now it's on contracts, and because of my vaccine status, again, it's limited still now, which again is the point here. We have people that are still public servants that are hired like by us essentially and funded by us, and they're doubling down on misinformation, and it has everything to do with ego, in my humble opinion, and not looking at accurate information and not having like a proper representative of people that can come up with concerns regarding the health measures and the studies coming out with the side effects, like the various demographics, of people getting impacted now with immune issues, like and spike proteins and blood clots and you name it. And there's a lot of stuff I can't say on here because it keeps on getting my videos removed for medical misinformation, even though I cite actual experts like Byron Bridle, I think that's how you say his name. Anyway, like I have so much information on this guy, and Peter McCullough and Dr. John Campbell and others. And so in Canada, like there's schools all over Ontario and in BC, like that are confirmed officially bringing back maybe already have like the mask mandates, even though the World Health Organization, CDC, count like even like the manufacturers of the masks, like even on a lot of the boxes, even I've shared, it doesn't prevent the spread of the virus. And I would highly recommend people look at germ theory as well, and how like our own individual health matters a lot, right? And so where was I going to with? Oh yeah, even Dr. Kieran Moore, who was Toronto's public health expert, even though I use that term loosely, I even leaked and released a memorandum that he had shared with other health experts, even admitting that the masks didn't work, and there was no issues with so there was no differences like preventing like the stop the spread or anything like that between vaccinated and unvaccinated people and or masked people and unmasked people. And there's a Bolshevik revolution going on. There are. I'm going to take a look at that. There's revolutions going on all over the world. There's a lot of the same issues that people are bringing up to light, and it's regarding like the agenda for 2030, like this, like the New World Order stuff. Like there's like one group governing the entire planet, which I'm arguing is already happening. Like with the religion of money, and corporatists that are also currentists, and atheists that are destroying our world. And I'm going on tangents again too, but like communist atheists, like everyone's talking about communists, but communist atheists are the ones that, when you bring that all chemical mixture together, are the ones that have caused the most death, and suffering, and crimes against humanity, and Stalin and Lenin and Hitler, and there's just so many examples throughout history. And I would highly encourage people, even religious leaders that were not religious, that were just faking it, like that were actors, and put in place in order to dupe people into blindly obeying a religion that is based on astronomy and astrotheosophy and sun worship, and things like that. And just like every other religion and occult organization, because this is a assimilation that's being projected on a flat plane of inertia. And I give so much proof of that. And it is what it is. But maybe I'll just present a video instead of you just seeing me talk for, I don't know, forever.
A pretty big topic I'm going to discuss. With the research, if you're going to try to find the truth in the world and peel back the layers of what's really going on, you're going to eventually come across NASA and the space program. And what you're going to find is that NASA was created in the mid-50s to create the illusion of going into outer space and the possibility of going to the moon.
Okay, so Stanley Kubrick, I've said this multiple times before, he's the director of Space Odyssey and other movies, which is why he was hired to film and fake the moon landings.
And have carried on that propaganda campaign for 70 years now. And it's really kind of mind-blowing, because you're going to start off, let's say you start off and look into the moon landing, and you can pick that apart in a couple hours. It's such an easy thing to prove that no one ever went to the moon. It's just ridiculous. I'm not going to go in the details. I'm just going in the overall thought process of how to come to terms with what space really is and what our understanding really is.
And they use green rooms and stuff too. And then they also edit these and these backdrops, like with the water, like being submerged underwater, is they're edited to look like it's in space.
Let's go to modern times. They're still doing these ridiculous things, like SpaceX is now landing a 212 foot tall, 12 foot wide rocket, which is basically like landing a pencil. Try to balance a pencil on a tabletop. Now try to take that same pencil and have it fall out of the sky at many, many thousands of miles an hour. I'm talking, it was going, I believe it was 17,000 miles an hour before it comes back down. And it comes down and it lands on a barge in the middle of the ocean. And it's choppy waves, it's rocking back and forth every single time. They lose the feed, and then hey, there it is, and magically it's there. So that is ridiculous. It's impossible. And but you really got to look further, because you got to really understand the implications of that.
Oh, there you go.
NASA does not
It's easier to fool people than to convince them that they
have space probes out in the, you know, out in the solar system taking photographs of planets. It's not happening. You know, Voyager 1 was one of the earlier space probes to be launched in the mid 70s, and currently they say it's still out there. They're telling children in school these days that this Voyager 1 space probe is traveling at 38,000 miles an hour, and it's many billions with a B miles away. It's breached through our solar system, and they're talking about solar wind and all of this nonsense. And keep in mind that this Voyager 1 is working off this nuclear powered battery that's never gone dead through the hardest of any known possible environment. It traveled through the alleged asteroid belt. For the memory is about to give back any information, and I believe that the memory is about 70 kilobits, which is about 1 JPEG photo. Yet it's sending back these high definition pictures of all of the planets and their moons and all of this. So what I'm saying is, it's not real, and it's provably not real if you take the time to investigate that. And with that, again, you have to understand the implications of that, because the moon landing is not real, space probes are not real. That means that we have no photographs of any planets or any moons as physical objects. You're going to look on NASA or any of these government sites, or that's obviously been disseminated into every university and research and
what a coincidence. The movie and like the character of Pluto being discovered around the same time in the same year.
These highly accredited organizations and institutions are using these photographs that are faked. They're all computer generated images. You can look at them and see they're fake. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, and again, remember the probes that are supposedly taking these pictures have a very low resolution or no capability of even getting that information back. They're saying that the information is coming back at 1/100000th of 1/10000000th of 1 watt. And NASA has this deep space receiver that they're the only one in the world that can pick it up. If you ever read the book The Emperor Has No Clothes, that's what we're dealing with. So anyways, that to me really got me down the road, because it was shocking. It was shocking to make that realization that there are no photographs of the planets. So the only best they can see is from a telescope, which is pretty much what I can see from here. They may have a more high-powered telescope, but what you're looking at up there are luminescent bodies. They are lights in the sky. It's something that is very hard. If you're just now listening to this, you might turn it off, but I hope you don't, because it's something that is very, very important to understand, that we don't know what's out there, and what we've been presented is completely false and falsified on purpose. So that led me to another path in my journey, discovering that the Earth, the composition of the Earth, and everything we know about the Earth has been fabricated and manipulated as well. But that's another discussion. So this is about the space race. This is about our understanding of outer space. So just consider it and really.
It just I noticed a comment. I don't mean to be I don't know, rude or anything like that. This is for Bet Wixdex. I hate to break it to you, but flat Earth has been proven, and people have taught this. Ancient civilizations, like I've discussed so many times on even on this channel, and I've shared, like, even in a lot of my videos, like literal references that people just need to take the time to look at it. Unfortunately, and the irony is, like, the CIA was literally created and invented in order to push the globe Earth theory. So like people talk about this too. Like look when the CIA was created, look when NASA was created, and all these other organizations that work in and around each other. And then also have again like it's not the organization as a whole. Just like the military, is something that I was an infantry officer, even in the special forces for 15 years of my life. You know what I mean? And now I'm incorporated with it. Incorporated, and so there's good people in trying to do good things. Unfortunately, like there's a lot of pushback by the people that are pushing the agenda, funding these organizations, these systems, and they have their own agenda and narrative that they want to implement, right? So the military and pharmaceutical industrial complex is something where like the Black Rocks, the Blackstones, the Vanguards, the Raytheons, the Lockheed Martin groups, JP Morgan, realty companies, stuff like that. Like the higher ups, you know what I mean? They control the education systems, the banking systems, the political parties, like the like literally everything. And so, and when countries or organizations don't follow like what they want to push, they have all these friggin' like meetings and stuff like that in Davos and stuff like that, and all roads lead to Rome, which I'll get into with Dr. Jordan. Oh, well, I don't know if he was a doctor or not. He should have been, but Jordan Maxwell, genius, and he talks about this stuff as well. But I'm going on these tangents, but unfortunately, the globe Earth model is very new, and everything that you see online is CGI, and even Don Pettit, who I don't even know if you know, and the Blue Marble guy, like even admit it, and I've shared that as well, and even Buzz Aldrin admitting it. Like it's just exhausting that, like I'm still having to like say this at this point. It's just, but it is what it is. Like everyone has their entitled to see what they want.
Go do your own research, take your own journey, because this is too big. Nobody can just sit here for a couple minutes and explain it and just say satellites aren't real. Satellites are not traveling over the Earth at 17,000 miles an hour, or there's these higher ones that are making a higher orbital rotation, so they have to go faster, and they're going 22,000 miles an hour. Consider how ridiculous that is. And the fact is that they're not even necessary, because NASA has their own balloon program that's been going on since the 50s, and they have these massive balloons that can carry a payload of 8,000 pounds. So they're these, I'm talking, they're the size of football stadiums, domes. They're like 400 yards, these massive helium balloons. NASA is the largest consumer of helium in the world. Look it up for yourself. It's a fact, but there's a shortage on helium, and NASA consumes all the helium. And I wonder where it goes. They don't talk about their balloon program, but satellites are hanging on balloons, and they are maneuverable. And that's why they go up to 100,000+ feet.
These are working. Like, what is I'm getting new pre-rolls, and like they don't light.
Of elevation. That's why we can see them, because they're not 22,000 miles away or 250 miles up in the air. Do you really believe that you can see a satellite from 250 miles away? Think about how far that is. Think about something from wherever you live that's 250 miles away that's the size of a car. Do you really believe that the human eye could see that, and it has no lights on it? The sun's not going to reflect off of it, and you're not going to see it. It's not true. So anyways, so
like, just to be clear, like that's not going in outer space, what you believe to be outer space. Unfortunately, what people believe to be outer space, there's nothing that goes beyond the dome, firmament, like the fields, like the hyperboloids, the toroidal fields that are projecting the simulation. And yeah, like I've shown even like off of sea vessels and stuff like that too. And
the other thing about communication is there are undersea cables that connect the entire world. All of the internet, all telephones work off of ground-based relays. All the towers that you see, those are there, to.
This is all open source. So yeah, you can take a look at this, pause.
Relayed all of the transmissions. And then,
like even me, I don't just go off of videos that I look at and just believe it, right? Like I dig into it. Anything that I believe to be suspect, like even though I'm fairly well versed in like a lot of the flat Earth stuff in any case, and like the underground seed cables and underwater seed cables and stuff like that. But if there's anything that seems suspicious about videos that are shared with me, I still like do my own investigations and
through the oceans, there's a massive net of.
I mean, just do your own research
of underwater cables that transfers the information. Please look it up. That's they say that all.
Okay, so 99% of international data is transferred through a labyrinth of cables stretching across the floor of the world's oceans. Okay, so like the internet that you think is like in space or whatever is
Well,
the
the
ocean.
information.
And a lot of people believe that space is the ocean. So Stormy Almack, I believe that's her name and stuff like that. Like I think you're right too.
Goes through these cables, and they go through ground-based relays. So there's no point. There's no reason whatsoever for communication satellites, and your cell phone, when you make a phone call, does not go up into outer space and then zap back down. It goes to the local tower, and it is relayed around local ground-based towers that you can see, and it goes back down to the ground to the other cell phone wherever you're calling. That's what happens. The same thing with the internet. It goes through a wire, might go through a satellite dish from your house up to the local the local dish, and then it relays back and forth until it wants to find wherever location it's going to, and that's the fact. So what's the point? The photographs they have of the Earth. There's not one photograph of the Earth. If they really had these satellites at 1 million miles away, like they have this live feed, you can find a satellite that is supposedly taking pictures of Earth right now, and it's just this ridiculous computer graphic. It's so phony. It's just like, again, if you look at it and you think it's real, you have to really check yourself and wake up from the dream you've been in, because it's so easily seen to be provably ridiculous.
Okay, so again, I don't know if this person's being a troll or not, but again, I think flat Earth theory is just a CIA psyops. I already talked about that, and same with UFOs and this LGBTQ religion is what this person's saying. I don't know what he means by that. I also believe that unidentified flying objects are like aircrafts, landcraft, or seacraft. They're just advanced technologies or holograms being used by people that have been hiding this from us. And so I'm going to argue with not argue, but I'm going to challenge Betwixt X. Give me one point or fact or proof about your globe Earth model, because this is another thing that frustrates me. People try to hijack people's pages and or their posts and stuff like that, and it's just insulting and or trolling them and or trying to discredit what they're sharing, and I can easily refute and debunk. And so I would love to do this live. So just give me one point or proof. And I would love it if it's Professor Dave, even better, because I've debunked this guy. Eric Dubé has, Nathan Oakley has, and stuff like that. And so like his stuff is cherry picked to make it look like he is like is a flat earth debunker. And to us, he looks like an absolute moron. And so I'll wait on that point, but I'll just carry on for people to actually get more educated on the actual proof. This is again from a NASA website.
Look up. There's a website you can find, and it's through NASA, or it's through another might be a Japanese space program, which they all know the same thing. These guys are all in cahoots. But there's a video of the moon crossing the Earth, and they put it out there like it's real, and it's just so ridiculous. Just look it up. Say Earth, moon crossing the Earth, NASA, and look for the most official site you can find, but they're all using the same, quote unquote, official series of these pictures that they've taken to show the moon crossing around the Earth, and it's just come on, it's just ridiculous. So anyways,
I've showed this too, but I like even with like the overlays and like the models that they use, like it shows like the same overlays with like the same dot at the top and stuff like that for all the freaking planets. The luminaries that they that the websites show, and it's just
making that realization. If you really want to dive down that rabbit hole and be honest with yourself and think about how this is going to affect our children and how we've been affected, how everybody. I mean, there's a very, very few people that have the real understanding that the space program is faked, and you might know that nobody went to the moon, but people stop there, So our children right now are being taught that there's a space probe on Mars taking photographs. It's ridiculous. And they come back, my daughter comes home from school and she says, Dad, they just found water on Mars. And I said, no, honey, they didn't. And she was shocked. She said, what are you talking about? I saw it in class. I saw the rover on class. I said, no, you didn't. It's not real. It's faked. And she was devastated. And, my wife says, that's, you really shouldn't say that. That's going to shock her. You can't tell her that the moon landing.
And you know how this stuff starts with children? And for so many different reasons, I can go on these tangents about high pitches and low pitches and how children hear like the higher pitches. And that's why a lot of pop stars and celebrities and actors and stuff like that, they're more popular with children. And even with that Yanny and Laurel, like example, like there are people that older people generally heard Laurel and rock. Yeah, and then the younger people generally heard Yanny, and it has to do with the frequencies. And then if you look at Britney Spears and her music, it's very high pitched. And then generally speaking too, like very famous people, like they use high pitched frequencies either as part of their like the music background and or like the vocals. And so this is a way to like this is like a mind trap or whatever you want to call it, in order to get people to like look at your your music or your like whatever you want to call it, like whatever you're selling. These people are paid advertisement. And with Britney Spears, I also believe that they possibly speed up her voice, which is why she doesn't do her own like live music and stuff like that. And because when they do when they do the like when they do it faster, like the faster rollback of the voice or whatever you want to call it, or I guess it would be roll forward, then it's a higher pitch. And then if you slow it down, like you can look at any music video she has online, if you slow it down a little bit, even just like 0.75. For example, this, like I can change the speeds. I have it at 1.25 right now. We can go back to normal, and then
you can't tell her that that there's no rovers on Mars. It would shock her. Well, I look at it. I had some time thinking about it, and I think it's okay to be shocked because we need to be shocked.
Oh my goodness! See, I go on all these freaking tangents. But like the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus, like these are lies that are told to children. And then when they find out, oftentimes it's a shock, unfortunately, and there's confusion, and like this is how like this starts like this like the
shocked. Are we going to all agree to lie? Really? Are we going to agree to lie to
this is number 3
to move into the future and teach all of our children absolute lie just because the government wants you looking up and wants to keep you confused and wants to keep you thinking that the earth is different than.
And it's not the government. Again, I keep on having to say this. It's likely like corporations and or corporatists, but it's individuals that are within these organizations and or controlling these organizations through funding and pressure and blackmail and bribery or whatever you want to call it, that are running the shots, right? Okay, so like your average friggin' military person, like even at the general level, like for most are people that are of service, great people, and they don't know about this stuff, and they're not willingly or knowingly trying to like mess with people. The opposite. They're people that are that have putting their lives on the line, like cops and stuff like that too. Like your average cop, law enforcement person is not trying to ruin your life, believe it or not. Like I know, like there's just so much mainstream messages going on about defunding the police, like even senators, and like it's ridiculous stuff. But I can go on these tangents. But anyway,
than what it is, and thinking that there's this this space probe running around this terra firma planet that just happens to look exactly like Greenland. And if you go look up Devon Island, before the first rover went to Mars, they started a research project funded through NASA on Devon Island, and they were there. It's verifiable that they were there at least a year before the landing of the first rover. And what's hilarious about it, that it's still there. It's called the Mars Houghton Research Project. It's on Devon Island up in Greenland, up by the Arctic. And it's the exact same landscape, the same rolling hills, the same rocks, the same everything. All they do is put a green or an orange filter on it to make you think it's something different, and it's just so ridiculous. And just don't buy into it anymore. And we need to stop teaching our children lies, and we need to start really analyzing how deep the lie is, and it'll take you to some places that are going to shock the heck out of you. But I think it's important because what's the alternative? Are we just going to live in a complete, basically an illusion? I mean, I'm not saying that we're not here. I'm saying, of course, we're here, but you have to consider that in your mind's eye, when you look up at outer space, and let's say you see that red star, that orange star, and you're like, hey, we could see Mars. Do you really, like, in your mind, do you think that there's a little robot up there driving around on dirt? You know, and you have to consider how far that goes through the whole understanding of what's out there. It's a huge worldview to overcome, and the cognitive dissonance that it's so hard to overcome, especially if you're not used to this. The deeper you go and the more shocking things you find, the easier it gets, and the more empowered you're going to be by learning these things. And you might be a bit of an outcast, like I've found. I've had I think it's important to tell the truth. I think it's important to learn how to do this in a very concise way, where you're you don't want to be ridiculous about it. You don't want to be the town lunatic, is what I'm saying. But I think it's important to say it, and I think it's important to share the information. And I'm willing to put myself out there to help explain what's happening, and I'm hoping to find a connection with 10 people that can take this and share it with 10 other people and compound what the information to get it out there and
let me see here. I will go into. Let me see here. I mean, I've already shared this, so this is boring, but like showing how, like in the live feeds, and I've even like looked at NASA live feeds myself, and actually even shared screen captures of me commenting on their live feeds where they go when the rockets go up, by the way, and then they go back down. They zoom out of the friggin' live feed and they go to CGI and they show, oh, this is the rocket and where it is in space and stuff like that. So again, you're a liar, and I've already and it's boring because I've already proven that. And then again with the Tesla like stuff. The blue, like people have already said, like this has been like it's exhausting. It's the same stuff over and over again because you guys don't listen. It's CGI what you're seeing, okay? Like it's exhausting. And so I'm just gonna present like I'm gonna share a screen with like again, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Even with reference that I share, like people are so lazy, they don't look at the information. Like every single rocket launch that you've shown, and again, I've shared this on my video, I've shared this on my social media, it goes up and then back down. Most often in the Bermuda Triangle area, which is why they say like, oh, don't go in this area, like, and they try to like fear monger people because they can't do the rocket launches in like where there's like land masses, okay? Because they would like land and likely like there's more possibility of it hitting and crashing into forests and or houses or whatever. And so snap like on that, but
never paid attention. When you do pay attention, you start to notice things. Are you?
This is I highly recommend this. Little Clever, 2021. There's so many great videos out there.
Forward with the Earth being flat, I couldn't just sit around and do nothing. There was videos everywhere. There was videos of people doing science, putting balloons up with a camera that doesn't have a fisheye lens on it, like a GoPro lens, a wide-angle lens, and they were using these cameras.
And then with the globe too, like the curvature has repeatedly been debunked. Like if you look at Robotham and like so many others, even myself, like if you do your own curvature like experiments and like on the same like if you go like on a beach or like wherever and then look at another like even a boat in a water for is a good example, or like a windmill, in water, there's so many things that you can use as a reference, and then calculate how many degrees or whatever or feet of curvature there it would be like under under your friggin' like globe Earth model, and it's not going to work. You're going to always get it where like and even NASA shows like the calculations that they use for a flat stationary Earth plane. But like let's see what this video.
The horizon rose to eye level, which would be impossible on a ball that would be falling away from you as you rose up.
Where's the curve? And you're not using a fisheye or lens.
Hoax videos debunking the moon landing, picking apart NASA just left and right. It was awesome. Awesome time for YouTube between 2015 and 17.
Even Google mentioned it during their commercial. Do you remember this? Why would Google be promoting this?
As a joke?
As a joke? No. We know why. They were panicking. Panicking because the platform they purchased 10 years ago was collapsing with truth. The powers that be would not allow that.
We want to provide users with authoritative, trustworthy information.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I only have a minute and a half, and I don't really need to hear what you're trying to provide. I want to know how you're dealing with all these conspiracy theorists on your platform.
So the first way is by demoting low quality content and promoting more authoritative content. And the second is by providing more transparency for users. So we're introducing boxes that provide factual information at the top of results that have shown themselves to turn up a lot of information that is counterfactual, such as searching for the earth is flat on YouTube, where you see a lot of...
Your response is to put a box saying, nope, the earth is not flat.
Correct.
Okay.
So instead of deleting all of the millions of videos we have made, they simply decided to bring in their puppets to reiterate the agenda at stake.
We are already sufficiently motivated to invest the necessary resources and people in addressing this threat.
You can tell it's real because it looks so fake, honestly.
The earth being flat is getting out of control. Can you please help?
When you stand on the shoulders of those who came before, you might just see far enough to realize the earth isn't flat.
1 + 1 is?
2.
What color is the sky?
Blue.
And the earth is?
Round. Just like it is here.
This book celebrates flat earth theory that is spreading ironically around the world
And its possible roundness.
Spinning.
I'm just gonna go on another one here. Let's see. Because I can easily just go on the flat Earth map that app that I have on my phone, and if I have any of these videos or these questions, I mean, that I want to refute, then I can just look at them. So I just it's gonna show my history. Still not showing my history. It's funny. Oh, there we go. Okay. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Share screen. There we go. I don't mean to. I'm going to embarrass someone here. Let me see. They asked for it. So this is from a playlist. I don't know if it'll show the playlist or not, but here's just one of the videos.
1,000 views overnight. I had no idea this video was going to go viral, but since it has, and there's a lot of people in the comments claiming that there are pictures of Earth from space, let's address it.
Let's address it.
The most common thing that people are saying is
I haven't seen this video.
Rise, the moon.
All I did was I went on my flat Earth map app that I've shown to people. I don't know if you can see it. Let me go back to the live stream here. If you can see one. Anyway, it's the FE clock or whatever you want to call it. And all I did was click on photos of Earth from space ? And there's so many others too. So there's where's the edge? Where does the sun go? What's under the flat Earth? Ships over the horizon, photos of Earth from space, why are the planets round, satellites and GPS, we can see too far, Coriolis, gravity, seas, and stuff that you probably don't know anything about. Circumnavigation, Antarctica, and the 24-hour sun. Is it a religious thing? Southern flights, pilots and scientists, are all the agencies in on it? What about the tides? Why the lie? Eclipses? There's so much. And anyway, I will just keep on with this video.
The shot from the moon. Earthrise. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, this is not Earthrise behind me, but I'm going to get to that. I don't even know where to start. For those that don't know, many of the NASA photos that they've put out claiming it is Earth from space, you can go into to adjust the settings as shown here, and you will see the box around Earth. The same thing applies to the Earthrise photo. If you go in and adjust the settings, a box pops up. What does this mean? It means that this is an inserted image. There is no box around the Earth in space, last time anyone checked. So this is an image that was inserted, proving that they are lying to you. So in the next clip, I will show you the Earthrise doing the same thing. It's not as high quality. It's a little grainy. Rob Skiba does an excellent presentation on this entire thing. Rest in peace. Exposing how NASA fakes some of these photos. So one down and a few more to go. So here we are. You really have to ask yourself at this point, why are we inserting the Earth into images and proposing them to be real? Why are there 0 full hemisphere, let me misconstrued, full hemisphere, like the entire half of the Earth, in frame between 1972 and the 2000s. So for 30 years, They couldn't take a single photograph of the entire Earth, the entire hemisphere. Why not? So I love how half the people in the comments are saying, oh, well, they couldn't get far away enough. That's why we don't have any. And then the other half of the naysayers are saying, we do have some. So are you all even on the same page? Do we have some? Have you come to terms that there are none? And if you don't find it weird that they couldn't take a picture in 30 years, I just don't know if I can help you at that point. And also, to those that are sending the Earthrise and not taking it a step back further and realizing that we didn't go to the moon, please see my IG story. Okay, so here we are at the famous blue marble, the one that was on everyone's cell phone when the new phones came out. Everyone thought it was a real photograph. First of all, if you don't think it's a red flag that you found out the most famous shot of the Earth was created in Photoshop, also, don't know if I can help you. But this is a fake photograph. I'm going to post a clip of someone describing it. But you got to think, they weren't able to take a picture like this for 30 years. Going to the moon, sending satellites out, taking pictures of things millions of light years away, far off galaxies, never once popped a little satellite up there and turned around and took a picture. And then people say, oh, but you don't understand how the composites work. They have to do it. I start hearing this justification that it all makes sense because NASA explained how this is how it's got to be done, so therefore it must be true. All I'm going to say is if you take this explanation as acceptable and you're okay with it, that this is the only way that they're able to take a photo. You can't just, send a rocket up there and live stream us the Earth while the rocket, and then show it to us as a whole ball, and then maybe just take a screenshot of that. It's comical if you really dig deep. Check out this clip from NASA's own data visual analyzer, Robert Simon.
Nearly everyone interested in space has seen this picture. It was released by NASA and has the iconic name, the Blue Marble 2. You can find the picture everywhere, but one of the best places to find it is NASA's own website. This photograph is iconic because NASA says it is one of the most detailed true color images of the entire Earth to date. To put it in a nutshell, the picture is iconic. Well, amazingly, it turns out a number of internet sleuths have now found compelling new evidence that the image is indeed a fake. Now, let's take a look. At first the photo seems legit. I mean, it looks like Earth, the Earth that we have always been told we live on. Here we can see clear examples that the photograph has not only been doctored or constructed, but also strong evidence that whoever done the doctoring used repeating photographic templates. That is, they cloned parts of the image and repeated it. That is, the photograph is a construction. This does not happen in nature. Clouds do not repeat in the same pattern like this. The chances of this happening in the same photograph are low. The only way this could happen is if someone has cloned clouds and painted them on. This of course could be for a number of reasons. You could argue that NASA simply touched up the photograph for effect, or that it was a problem with the imaging systems that were used. But still the question exists, why is NASA releasing fake pictures of Earth? If they are going to release a picture of Earth to be used in museums and by educators, as they state for the Blue Marble 2, then should they not release real images of Earth instead, or manipulated or fake images? Since the natural extension of this is, what other images have they doctored? The Moon, Pluto, Mars? Maybe all of them. And if they are faking pictures to such an extent, whether by wanting them to look better, or other reasons, then what real scientific value are they? Isn't science about finding the truth? And is that not hard to do, when you are being fed inaccurate, or in this case, completely manufactured data? NASA says these images are to be used by educators, museums, and scientists. Which means, they are passing off the image as a real picture of Earth. when it is not.
Then in 2002, Blue Marble 2.0, NASA's Rob Simon made this. And it had wide appeal too. For example, it ended up as the default background on the iPhone.
I didn't even know until I bought an iPhone and turned it on and kind of did a little happy dance.
Simon's job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is. A composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
To us, the really cool thing was the data set. Up until that point, there was no realistic color map of the globe anywhere.
So the land layer here comes from
the moderate resolution imaging spectroradiometer aboard Terra.
And the tricky part here was the weather.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it's a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space, but I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it.
So look, if you want to believe that the only way to get a photograph is by taking ribbons of imagery and splicing them together and blah, 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 that Mr. Blue Marble said, then that's fine. You can live with that statement, and that's fine. But the thing is even if I were to give you one of these photos or give you the couple shots from the moon, what strikes me is that no one goes, let's just say I gave you the photo. Okay, I was wrong. That is a real shot of the Earth from the moon, the Earthrise or whatever. The person goes, haha, got him. He's wrong and I'm right. Moving on. You don't go, wait a minute. There's only one picture of the Earth that they took of the moon in 6 missions? One? They would have taken hundreds. They would have taken so many. Think about how many pictures people take before they go out to dinner. Bathroom selfies. I mean, I've taken more videos in my car today. Yes, it's 2023, but you're going to the moon. You would take dozens. You would take hundreds.
So that clearly shows that the Earth images have been faked and staged. Let's see if I can get on this history. I got a hummingbird that goes to my house a lot. Cool. So you talked about ground positioning systems, which I've used as well because I, again, was an infantry officer for 15 years and I have a GPS, I have compasses.
Operating 24 hours a day, numerous nations maintain a network of LORAN transmitting stations to service the major shipping lanes. There are a pair here, for example, Sisconsit and Bodie Island. One is known as the master station, the other is the slave. For a moment, consider these two stations operating as a synchronous pair, simultaneously emitting short
So I haven't watched this video yet either, but I'm just curious
of radio energy.
Because I know the source is good.
Leaving both shore stations simultaneously, a pair of pulses travel out into space, in all directions, at a constant speed, roughly 186,000 miles per second, or the speed of light. Plus, the pulse from the closer station will reach the ship an instant before the pulse from the other station. The LORAN ship board gear measures this difference in time of arrival in millionths of a second, or microseconds. It simply determines how much longer one pulse takes to reach the ship than the other pulse. Now, this same time interval will be observed at many points within the range of the two shore stations. And when connected, these points form a hyperbola, known as the LORAN line of position. To aid the navigator in obtaining a fix, specially prepared LORAN tables and charts contain accurately plotted lines of position on the various time differences encountered in a particular area. Having one line of position, we then obtain readings from another pair of stations.
it was just interesting because like there's toroidal fields and hyperboloids that I've shown from Ken Wheeler and others regarding magnetism and dielectricity, etc. And it's like they're doing, so there's clearly like that going on here as well. So it's just like in my brain.
An accurate fix is established at the intersection of the two lines of position.
I'll stop sharing this. And I wanted to get into astrotheosophy, but like that's kind of the video that I wanted to talk about. Like, let's just see first that there's like more current events I wanted to talk about. The Freedom March that's happening on the 20th of September of this year. It's going to be 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's going to be 9 a.m. for example in the Yukon, and it's just like the Freedom Convoy. Again, like, these are things that are bought for likely and paid for by people that that want to like further distract and divide. But if we can get more people to be aware of that and go out to these events and provide support, and then also provide like surveillance and make sure that this stuff again remains peaceful, just like people did during the Freedom Convoy. I was saying even before the convoy got to Ottawa, right, that this is like not what you think it is, and it's going to be like people wanting to stage a riot, just like they did with with DC. And I was right, and there were people like Brian Fox that were like literally like part of like the liberal friggin' cabinet members. Is like, it blows my mind that we're part of like people that were like getting crisis actors and the media involved in order to elicit emotional responses in people and make this like an unpeaceful thing, and where they could justify, like even Marco Mendicino talking about like throwing in tanks. This guy has no defense security background at all, and just the audacity of him to like to vilify people and lie about arson. He's saying that it was from like people are so clueless, and it's just frustrating. But these are the people that are trying to get these events into place to distract us or make it think that we have like some kind of a say and like this is a good thing, and it's gonna like change things. But if we can get people out there and again do the surveillance piece, like expose anyone that's a crisis actor or anyone that's trying to make this like an unpeaceful event, because this is all just going to play into like justifying like more like penalizing certain groups and yada yada yada, and like and making us look ridiculous, right? And so it's unfortunate that I'm having to say this again, but again, get your cameras out, be peaceful, be vigilant, and yeah, just be aware that this is again like just like another thing to like just further distracted. So I was looking at Old World Florida, and that guy's a freaking genius, man, and like the same level as like Santos Bonacci and Jordan Maxwell types. Like I don't know, it's just impressive, and he's young too, so like he's under the age of 30, so this is like just really incredibly impressive. And so he was talking about Taurus and the connection with so much, right? Like I can get into this, but like I've been looking into like the connection with like the energy systems and the chakras and our own avatars being electrical magnetic devices, or what do you want to call it? But like I'm going on all these tangents, but that possibly like Taurus, like maybe it's associated with like the heart, because like when you look at like different diagrams, like actually maybe I'll just present. Let me see if I can even see it here. I have to just freaking share all my screens like one at a time, which is so annoying. So I just want to see which one I want to show. Masculine, feminine sides. Anyways. Speaking about energy systems, I was going to talk about, actually, maybe I'll just read off like a comment that I made. Like his video is so amazing, but I said, could Taurus be associated with the heart chakra, color green, ruled by Venus? And so I've talked about Venus before, and I shared that recently too, where like Hydra, the snake, there's certain periods of the year where like the snake like is like facing or pointing towards Venus. And Venus also has its own phases. I highly recommend people take a look at that, and it's considered like the morning and or evening star, and it does have its own phases, just like the moon has. And a lot of people don't know about this. But then again, even like the planets, like the 7 original planets, like the sun and moon is in there, and there's correlations to the zodiac sign. I make all these connections, and with the Bible as well, and so many different groups that have done even paintings in plain sight and statues to show us like the astral theosophy, um, like hidden knowledge or whatever you want to call it, or lost knowledge, I guess. But anyways, could Taurus be associated with the heart chakra? Green ruled by Venus, the planet, which I believe to be a luminary, and then so I talk about toroidal fields, and like this is a torso, and then so like that's kind of like center of mass where we have like the heart, you know what I mean, is in that area as well, and center mass, like I was saying, but and it shows Taurus is on the feminine side of the body, and or associated with like the feminine energy, and Libra is the opposite on like that diagram that I can't find, but it's just showing like the 7 chakras, and then like the energy centers and stuff like that within them, and then how there's the different zodiac signs, like there's pairs that are correlated with like the 5 original planets, and then the sun and the moon, the sun being ruled by, or sorry, Leo being ruled by the sun, and Cancer being ruled by the moon. Those are the only individual signs that have their own like planets, and then yada yada yada. And there's the pairs which add up to 7, and then I can go on a tangent about that too. But anyways, the sun is ruled by Leo, alone at the top, at the crown of the head, the element gold, color purple, masculine sign, Jesus. So Jesus, or you've got like Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, you've got Isis, Osiris, Horus, you've got Abraham, Jacob. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting Isaac, maybe. You have Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Like you have Mithras and Dionysus. There's so many different representations of the sun, like this, and the sun with Leo is a masculine sign, which is why the representation of these characters or these beings or these figures are male, or are represented by men. And then you have that color gold, like for the representation of the sun and the element as well. And then the moon being ruled by Cancer, and being a feminine sign, so like the representation of Mary and Isis, and again, so many different female representations of the moon. And element being silver, third eye chakra, color indigo. And then I give examples of that. And then you've got Gemini, which is a masculine energy, and Virgo, feminine, that are ruled by Mercury, another element, and this element is Mercury as well, associated or correlated with the throat chakra. Element Mercury, like I said, in the color that is used is blue. And then you've got Taurus feminine and Libra masculine, ruled by Venus. Element iron, color green, heart chakra. Aries masculine and Scorpio feminine, ruled by Mars. Element iron, color yellow, solar plexus chakra. Pisces masculine and Sagittarius feminine, element tin, color orange, sacral chakra. Aquarius masculine and Capricorn feminine, ruled by Saturn, element lead, color red, root chakra. And then I go on, but anyways, I hope that was interesting to people. But I really appreciate people like Jordan Maxwell and Santos Bonacci. And if this stuff is interesting to anyone, then I would just love to just like share, like, even though I'm almost an hour in already, but like I would love you guys to like have access to this, because it's all censored, unfortunately, on like even on like people's YouTube searches and Rumble searches.
I wanted to know. I wanted knowledge. And so I really appreciate it more than anyone will know. I really appreciate it. Speakers, teachers, authors, writers, people who
I
are
highly recommend
leading
you
authorities
take a look
in
at
the
Jordan
internet today
Maxwell.
that I could go to and listen, go to seminars and sit and listen to them, learn from them, and write down their sources of their information, and go back and get the books and read. So I was traveling all over California, and all the museums, and all the federal and state depositories, all kinds of research libraries. I lived out at UCLA and USC stacks. They call them the stacks at USC, underground libraries, for years and years and years, cross-referencing everything, reading everything I could on the occult, on the strange things that are going on in the world. And like I said, I've been doing what I do for 53 years. I started back in 1959 with talking at little mom and pop grocery stores and bookstores, and I was just fascinated with the world of the occult, with all the things that are not seen. I wanted to know, and that's the big thing. The emphasis is on the word want. I wanted to know. So I decided to dedicate my life to studying the occult. The word occult simply is a Latin word which means hidden. Doesn't mean it's evil or bad or of the devil. It just means hidden. I've done over 600 radio interviews. I've worked with CBS on the Ancient Mystery series. I spoke all around the world, all over the earth, traveled extensively, speaking about the world of the occult. And I'm fascinated with how much people don't know. And most people do not see the profound significance of symbols on our money, on our coats of arms, on heraldry, on the corporate logos, on flags, national flags. All of these symbols mean something to highly intelligent people. Again, like I said, it's not important to the normal person out in the street. But going back to the dollar bill, you will see on the when you're holding the back of the dollar bill to you, it's on the right hand side is the eagle, and the eagle has 32 feathers on one wing and 33 on the other. 32 and 33. A lot of very interesting is he has 9 tail feathers. And in the world of the occult, there's an idea expressed that there were 9 men who are called the Council of 9, because religion and God is always equated with 3. There's always a triune God everywhere. All over the world, you have triune deities, 3. And so the idea being 3 times 3 is 9. It's the opposing of the gods. All the gods are represented by 3. That's why you have Christianity, Judaism.
And the Trinity, possibly, like especially with this avatar, our connection to our higher levels of consciousness is through the thalamus, the pituitary gland, and pineal glands.
And Islam, 3 major religions. They're called the people of the book. Why do you have 3? You have 3 because you have Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Solomon. There was no King Solomon. There was no King Solomon ever existed. There was no King David or King Solomon or any of those other biblical characters. That's why the Bible is called the greatest story ever told. It's a story. Solomon, there was no Solomon. And so therefore today there is no Solomon's temple. There is a temple of Sol, Om, On. S-O-L in Latin is the sun, Sol. Om, O-M, are the priest of the Hindu priests who are called the priest of Om. Remember the chant of the Om? And then you have the word On, O-N. Well, the Greeks went into Egypt, and the center for sun worship in Egypt back then was a city called Heliopolis. Helios, and this is all Greek. The Egyptians didn't call the city Heliopolis. The Greeks call it Heliopolis because Helios is Greek and Opolis is a city.
Right.
So it's Helios is the city of the sun. I should say that Helios is Greek for the sun, and Opolis is a city. So therefore, Heliopolis is the city of the sun. But the city that the Greeks call Heliopolis, the Egyptians called it On, O-N, because it was a city of light, the city of the sun. This is why when you walk into a room, you flip a light switch on, because in Egypt, city of light was called On. So therefore, it was the city of the sun. Well, Sol, Om, On are all 3 names of the sun. And therefore, the Temple of Solomon, Temple of Solomon, is the Great Pyramid of Giza. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the Temple of Solomon.
And I've said this in previous videos, but there are pyramids all over the world, including in North America and in Canada as well. Ones that are covered up, and ones that are buried and or underwater, and or ones that were unfortunately also removed to hide our ancient advanced civilizations.
Because the pyramid is the temple of the sun. The Aztecs and the Mayans had temples to the sun and temples to the moon. But the ones in Egypt the Great Pyramid was called the Temple of the Sun, because it was all dedicated to astrology based on the sun. So that's why it's in Heliopolis that became, and the city was called On by the Egyptians. But when you go back to the American dollar bill, you will see above the eagle's head, there are 13 stars. Look at those 13 stars and you tell me, what configuration do the 13 stars collectively make up? There are 13 stars above the eagle's head on the back of the dollar bill. Look at them, study it, think about what you're looking at, and put all 13 stars together in one picture. What does it make up? And they all put them all together into one star, and becomes the hexagram, H-E-X, hex is 6. Well, the Star of David is a 6-pointed star. That's why it's called a hex. Why? It's because the ancient prehistoric world, the ancient Babylonians, Sumerians, they would draw a circle on the ground and then draw a triangle within the circle, and then an opposing triangle, which is a Star of David, we would call it, inside of a circle, and stand inside of that circle, that star, and cast a spell on you. And so today we have Jews all over the world who are proud to show you they have the hex put on them, because a hex is a 6-pointed star. And so they call it the Star of David. No, that first of all, we know it's not the Star of David, because the star itself, the 6-pointed star, originally came from the Hindus in India. This is an Indian Hindu symbol of the 6-pointed star. It can be traced back to in the ancient world as a symbol for the planet Saturn. Saturn was always the astronomical, not astrological, astronomical, one of the symbols in the astronomical for the planet Saturn was a 6-pointed star, a hexagram, which I think is interesting because on the planet of Saturn today, on the North Pole, there is a hexagram. So when this gets into religion and theology, which is the one subject that I'm fascinated with. If you think about it, all your life, the situation in the heavens has always been the same. It's the same story year in and year out. The sun is in summer, and then it goes into fall, then it goes into winter, then it goes into the spring, comes back to summer, and then it starts all over again: spring, summer, autumn, winter, and then it never stops. That's the way it is. So the sun, the ancient people said that the sun was dead in winter. Everyone in the northern hemisphere felt that the sun was dead in winter. It is dead in winter for you. It's freezing up here. But if you have the money, or if you're a bird, you can fly down to Rio. That's when summer is in the southern hemisphere. You go south for the summer. That's why you see the birds, all the birds going south in the fall. Why? Because they're getting out of here because it's winter. It's going to get cold here. So you fruitcake stay here and work on your job. We're going down to Rio, down to the beach. And so the birds are flying south for the summer because that's where the sun's going to be. So that's the first day of winter in the northern hemisphere. December 21st is the first day of summer in the southern hemisphere. And so it's just the opposite there. So when they're having summer, we're having winter. Well, so in the northern hemisphere, we said that the sun dies for us. It's dead. So of no value to us. We're freezing to death up here. That's a whole story we can get into later. It's called astrotheology. First of all, on the right hand side, going back to the dollar bill, you will see the eagle. And the eagle represents, and the eagle has always represented in all societies, always the eagle is the most important symbol in all societies. And it always means the same thing. As far back as we can go to the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Phoenician Canaanites, the Greeks, the Romans, America. America has the bald eagle. That's our symbol. No, it's not your symbol. It's been the oldest symbol that's ever been used by any civilization on the face of the earth, period. All ancient civilizations use the eagle. It represents the sun. And there was an ancient priesthood coming out of Phoenicia, Cana, with a very thousands and thousands of years ago, a very ancient priesthood were the priest of the sun, and it goes back to even in Egypt there was a priesthood of the sun, and they were stationed in and they lived in an area we call On or Heliopolis. So the eagle represents the sun. But what's interesting about the eagle is you'll notice it only has two wings, left wing and right wing. That's why you can only have two political parties under this system in America. You can only have a left wing and a right wing because the eagle only has two wings, left wing and right.
So even though that's really interesting, I'm going to stop for just a second. He's so interesting, and so even all that eagle representation as well. But I will just share another video with people. People are interested. Let's see here.
Mainstream science publication, or ask any science teacher, why can't we feel the Earth spinning? And they will unanimously reply that it is because the globe spins at a perfect constant speed, and we can only feel acceleration or deceleration. As Cool Cosmos website writes, Earth moves very fast. It spins at a speed of about 1,000 miles per hour and orbits around the sun.
And I've already debunked, and so have countless others, the Eratosthenes example, and regarding the circumference of the Earth based on shadows, and it's something that can be done on what they're calling like a globe, but also with the shadows can also be done like on a circular, whatever you want to call it, environment, or like a environment as well. So it could be done like on a cylinder as well, and so like a cylinder where you have it where there's a circular base and it goes up almost like a pyramid, and things like that, and it's all based on even like a half globe, for example, like if you cut it in half. And so but there's and so this is all like ridiculous like points that could be proven on either or. And so even Dave Weiss, sorry, like he also discusses this as well. And this is also only like even with the shadows, that also proves the flat Earth model as well, because with the with the crepuscular rays, which you probably have no idea about, they wouldn't be possible, like how the rays of the sun come at us. It would be coming at us depending on where we are on this globe, from upwards and downwards and sideways and stuff like that. And people would be like upside down, being held on this ball, like, and then sideways and stuff like that, all like ridiculous notions. And where was I going with this stuff? Oh yeah, and so it just proves that the just based on like the light rays and crepuscular rays, that it's local within this environment. And yeah, so I can go on all these tangents about this as well, but this video is probably very, very interesting. And
at a speed of about 67,000 miles per hour. We do not feel any of this motion because these speeds are constant. You can only feel motion if your speed changes. For example, if you are in a car which is moving at constant
surface, I wanted to say surface. So like a cylinder and like a cone, like a plate, like a circle, a globe or a ball. Like these are all things that's from a limited view or from like a different distance away to be seen like the exact same object. And especially if you have like a curved or fishlet eye lens, which all of our cameras have. And this is why there have been people that have gone out and funded their own research. People that have a lot more money than me, but I like you could do this yourself, where they've gone out and proven this this stuff for themselves using lens that are not curved and stuff like that, and just showing that no matter how high they go up, so many freaking so much, then there's no curve. And so even with robots, and like the reason why like people were saying like the point of, oh, there's a curve is because like, again, like all of these again, these are like the people, your globies are the ones that made the mathematics, by the way, for like the curvature of the earth and stuff like that as well. And we are the ones that are refuting it, and on a fairly consistent basis. And anyways, like there's so many books that you could look at, like Edward Hendry, Hendrie, and like it just shows like the like a math and stuff like that, and the algorithms in place. And anyway,
speed on a smooth surface, you will not feel much motion. However, when the car accelerates or when the brakes are applied, you do feel motion. The glaring problem with this claim, rarely ever addressed, is that the globe and everything on it, if it existed, would be undergoing constant acceleration, because uniform circular motion is constant acceleration. As published on physicsclassroom.com, uniform circular motion can be described as the motion of an object in a circle at a constant speed. As an object moves in a circle, it is constantly changing its direction. At all instances, the object is moving tangent to the circle. Since the direction of the velocity vector is the same as the direction of the object's motion, the velocity vector is directed tangent to the circle as well. An object moving in a circle is accelerating. An object undergoing uniform circular motion is moving with a constant speed. Nonetheless, it is accelerating due to its change in direction. The direction of the acceleration is inwards. With the inward net force directed perpendicular to the velocity vector, the object is always changing its direction and undergoing an inward acceleration. Therefore, the globe's theoretical astronomy is at odds with demonstrable physics. Uniform, and even more so with non-uniform, circular motion creates a centripetal force which entails constant acceleration in constantly changing directions. The heliocentric model claims the Earth rotates in uniform circular motion at constant speed while revolving an elliptical orbit around the Sun at another constant speed, while the entire solar system makes a circular orbit around the Milky Way galaxy at another constant speed, and the Milky Way galaxy shoots off in a straight line from their Big Bang beginning at yet another constant speed. In other words, we are actually supposedly undergoing 4 different circular, elliptical, and straight line motions simultaneously, but being told that we, quote, do not feel any of this motion because these speeds are constant. They always give the example of a car or train going straight at a constant velocity and claim we cannot feel that motion. But what if the car is speeding along an elevated, uniform, circular racetrack, while that entire elevated racetrack is making an elliptical circuit around the racing grounds, while simultaneously the entire racing grounds themselves are on a gigantic moving circular foundation, while that foundation itself shoots straight off into the universe? These are the actual variables involved with the globe's supposed constant speed that no one in history has ever demonstrated, measured, felt, or experienced whatsoever. So the next time someone claims you cannot feel the Earth's motion because it spins at a constant speed, remind them that uniform circular motion is acceleration, and acceleration is felt. And when they give you the example of a car driving down a straight road, remind them that the car is actually driving on a circular racetrack, while the racetrack is making an elliptical circuit around the racing grounds, while the entire racing grounds themselves are circling around a larger foundation, and that foundation itself is traveling in a straight line. These 4
and Polaris North Star never moves.
simultaneous varying
How is that
motions
possible?
the globe is subjected to in the heliocentric model create multiple acceleration vectors and destroy any possibility that they wouldn't be felt or measurable due to traveling at a constant speed.
there's so many videos I could go through with this stuff, but oh my goodness.
Or otherwise, the freedom to independently travel and explore the Earth, from the North Pole to whatever exists south of the South Pole, to any and everywhere else, should be a fundamental and unalienable right. Military vessels near the North Pole and Antarctica
Anyways,
have repeatedly...
even before I get into that, like even on the first chapter for The Greatest Lie on Earth, Proof That Our World Is Not a Moving Globe by Edward Henry, like Samuel Rowbotham proved the Earth is flat. And it gets into the calculations. So if the Earth is a globe and is 25,000 English statute miles in circumference, the surface of all standing water must have a certain degree of convexity. Every part must be an arc of a circle. From the summit of any such arc, there will exist a curvature or declination of 8 inches in the first statute mile. In the second mile, the fall will be 32 inches. In the third mile, 72 inches or 6 feet, as shown in the following diagram. I highly recommend getting this book. There you go. Anyway, there. And then going down. And anyway, so they did like the Bedford experiment, and I highly recommend people take a look at it. And again, just like more proof, but like I think that videos are more interesting for people. And that's why Eric Davis people, they do such good videos, I'm gonna share them.
Heavily patrolled and restricted waters. The Antarctic Treaty prevents all independent travel south of the 60th degree south latitude, where rebels like Jarl Andahoy and his team have been repeatedly turned around at gunpoint, jailed, and fined for daring to attempt. What is so important in Antarctica that 53 of the most powerful countries in the world have agreed to patrol and enforce harsh restrictions and penalties on anyone who attempts to independently explore it? Why has the entire continent of Antarctica and everywhere else on Earth below the 60th south parallel been caged off from us? The only way we can experience Antarctica is by being a government employee and working at one of their bases, or doing one of their overpriced penguin tours along the Antarctic coast. No one, even these very few humans, is granted the freedom to explore the continent. So even they are clueless as to what may exist at the furthest southern...
Okay, I've got better ones because I knew I was going to find it. The Eratosthenes experiment.
It's on a flat Earth.
See, I've already even
But
looked
how
at
could
this.
it be
Okay, I just
Eratosthenes? One of the most common alleged proofs quoted for the spherical Earth theory is the Eratosthenes sticks and shadows experiment. Many people may remember NASA spokesman Carl Sagan presenting this experiment by using a map of Egypt with 2 obelisks attached and showing their resulting shadows. The story goes that around 250 BC, a Greek mathematician and philosopher named Eratosthenes noted that at noon, during the summer solstice in Siena, the sun cast no shadow, and the rays could reach straight to the bottom of his well. Yet, meanwhile, in Alexandria, a vertically standing metal rod cast a significant shadow. Eratosthenes, Carl Sagan, and other globe proponents reasoned that this result is impossible on a flat Earth. To quote Carl Sagan, "If at a certain moment each stick casts no shadow at all, that is perfectly easy to understand, provided the Earth is flat. If the shadow at Siena is a certain length, and the shadow at Alexandria is the same length, that also makes sense on a flat Earth. But how could it be, Eratosthenes asked, that at the same instant there was no shadow at Siena and a very substantial shadow at Alexandria? The only answer, he claimed, was that the surface of the Earth is curved. After reaching this conclusion, Eratosthenes then famously factored the length of the 2 shadows with his assumed distance to the sun and recorded a measurement of the globe Earth's circumference close to what heliocentrist astronomers still use today. The fact of the matter is, however, that Eratosthenes, Sagan, and others are simply incorrect in their assumption that this would only be possible on a curved Earth. In reality, the exact same results occur on a flat Earth with a local sun. Eratosthenes' calculations were made assuming the sun to be millions of miles away so that its rays would fall perfectly parallel even in points as divergent as Siena and Alexandria. Anyone familiar with the phenomenon known as crepuscular rays, however, knows full well that the sun's rays simply do not fall perfectly parallel, especially at such distant points, rendering the entire argument moot. Furthermore, using sextants and plane trigonometry, by measuring the sun's angle at 2 points on Earth simultaneously and factoring their distance from each other, the Pythagorean theorem reveals that the sun is not millions of miles away, but instead less than a few thousand. High-altitude balloon footage has also filmed lighting hotspots on clouds, further proving the sun to be local and acting as a spotlight. Therefore, if globe believers wish to be honest, They must admit it is their faulty assumption that only a distant sun with parallel rays could produce such results, which has led to their faulty conclusion of a curved Earth. Because flat earthers have always maintained that the sun was local, and the very existence of crepuscular rays render the entire experiment invalid.
I'll just give one more. And again, these are great videos. There's also, though, like, I highly recommend people go out and do your own research, do your own science experiments and stuff like that, just like I've done. And then, and also like read books, older books, like look into this stuff.
Question 5.
Another sketch today.
Is the Earth very, very small, or is the Sun very, very near? Eratosthenes' calculation of the Earth's circumference is dependent on the light from the Sun being parallel, as it should be if the Sun is 93 million miles away. But anyone can go out on a sunny day with broken cloud.
And it depends on what book you get this from too, which is frustrating. Like some people say 93 million miles away, some people say 50 million miles away. Like that's not real anyway.
The light that arrives on the Earth is not parallel. The light rays come down at angles, indicating that the Sun is actually very close. Now, the official explanation is that the Earth's atmosphere refracts the Sun's light, and that's why the light comes down at diverging angles. So, if the light from the Sun is always refracted, then that would mean that Eratosthenes' calculation was made with refracted light, and therefore must be wrong, and the Earth must be much, much smaller. So which is it? It seems to me that if you still claim that Eratosthenes' calculations are correct, then the light cannot be refracted. But if the light is not refracted, then the Sun is close. And if the Sun is close, then for Eratosthenes to observe what he did, the Earth must necessarily be flat. Question 6. In a similar vein, how does a convex lens make light diverge? So again, the official explanation for diverging sun rays is that the Earth's atmosphere refracts the Sun's light like a lens. But the Earth's atmosphere is apparently a convex curve, so that would act like a convex lens and converge the light, concentrate it like a magnifying glass. You'd need a concave lens to make light diverge as we observe. Now, some have said that it is actually the angles between layers of clouds that seem to make the light diverge. But again, observation says that this is not the case. Here, there is nothing between the plane and the cloud, and the light is clearly diverging.
So I'm gonna stop sharing. Like I could go on so many more. Like I literally have on my phone alone, there's 18 videos just on Eratosthenes alone and refuting and debunking all of this stuff. And so like, I highly recommend. There's a whole there's so much information if people just take the time to look. And yeah, I could just go on. Like it's just, but like let's see. I want to get more into Jordan Maxwell. That was so interesting, and he gets into the, because again, like if we just get into the like this being a flat plane of inertia being projected via toroidal fields and hyperboloids, then we're getting away from this being a simulation, right? This is a electrical magnetic simulated reality. And the more we can understand that, the more we'll see that there's possibly a staged and planned and fake alien invasion coming. And I don't want people to get freaking duped with that either. Anyway, I digress. Jordan Maxwell. A little lighter.
The third party here, there's the brain that operates the left wing and right wing, which is telling you that our political system is run by money. You find banks are on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. Well, what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the currency. It's the cash flow, the liquid asset. Therefore, that's what a bank does. It directs the flow of the current.
Back to the writing is on the wall,
That's
right
it.
between the lines.
Absolutely. I mean, so on the left-hand side of the back of the dollar bill, you will see a pyramid. Now, how many Americans have looked at the back of a dollar bill? Most people don't even know what's on the back of a dollar bill. But on the back of the dollar bill is an Egyptian pyramid. And at the top of the pyramid was an all-seeing eye. It's become very famous now. Lots of, hundreds and hundreds of websites and speakers out there all over the world now talking about the symbol on the back of the dollar bill is Lucifer, the devil, or Horus, the Egyptian god of the sun, and all kinds of stories out there about the symbol on the back of the dollar bill. Well, I was talking about on radio and television and speaking at circuits and expos as far back as the 1964, 65, 66 about the symbol on the dollar bill and what the words mean. It's above the top of the pyramid. You will see the Latin word annuit coeptis. Anuit Coeptus, and beneath the pyramid you will see the banner, which incidentally has a forked tongue. It's a forked tongue on the banner, and it says Novas Ordo Seclorum. Novas is novus, meaning novice or new.
Right.
Novas means new. Ordo is order, the new order. Seclorum is where we get our word secular. Secular means anything that's worldly. So Novus Ordo Seclorum is the new order of the world, the new world order. Well, what are you talking about, new world order? Well, it's based on the pyramid with the all-seeing eye, the new world order. And the Anuit Coeptus at the top is Latin for our enterprise is now a success, or God has favored our enterprise with success. So what the symbol is saying is that this is a pyramid represents a new world order, but the idea is already a success. God has favored our enterprise, Anuit Coeptus. Okay, so there's an enterprise, a world enterprise, and it's called a New World Order, and it's based on the pyramid. So what the hell are you talking about? What are we talking about? We're talking about the eye and the triangle. You will see a light emanating from around the eye. The eye represents the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah. Ask any well-informed rabbi, what does that symbol at the top mean? And he will tell you, if he's well-informed and highly intelligent and well-read, that is the symbol for Messiah and the Hebrew religion. The Jewish religion, the Messiah is a triangle surrounded by light on top of a pyramid. That's the symbol for the Jewish Messiah. Also, and I'll tell you why, I'll explain to you why, but also in the New Testament, Jesus is represented as the triangle on top of a pyramid. Now, let me tell you why. Because in the Hebrew, there are two places in the Bible. I think one of them is in the book of Isaiah and one's in the book of Psalms. And we're talking Old Testament Hebrew, where the Messiah is referred to as the chief cornerstone the builders rejected. Again, in the Hebrew, Messiah is the chief cornerstone the builders rejected. Then twice in the New Testament, in Christian theology, Jesus is referred to as the chief cornerstone the builders rejected. Same words, but now it's in Aramaic and Greek, not in Hebrew. But it means the same thing. So then you'll say, okay, so the Messiah or Jesus is a chief cornerstone the builders rejected. This is why Christians who have no idea about any of this, because they've been watching Bugs Bunny and Big Top Pee Wee, so they have no idea about any of this. I spent 53 years studying this, while most Christians haven't spent 53 minutes. Christians will tell you that Jesus is the cornerstone of the church. Nothing could be more ludicrous on the face of it. Go back and read it. If you can get an education, go to school and learn how to read, and go back and read the actual Hebrew scriptures and read the Greek and Aramaic scriptures, and it will tell you, no, Jesus is not the cornerstone of the church. You are wrong, totally wrong. A cornerstone is a corner of a building. It's the first stone that's laid. It's a perfect square. And so wherever you lay that perfect square, when you build out from it, it's going to be too late. If you built the building and it's a little off, you should have straightened the cornerstone out to start with. So the cornerstone is on the bottom of the building. Jesus is not the cornerstone. The word in Greek and Hebrew is chief cornerstone. Chief cornerstone is totally different than cornerstone, because the word chief cornerstone in Hebrew means, look it up in the Hebrew dictionary, chief cornerstone is a Hebrew word which means a triangle perched on top of a pyramid. Because if you take a perfect four-sided pyramid in your mind, four-sided pyramid, absolute perfect, you take a razor and you cut off the tip. The tip you've just cut off is itself a pyramid. Four-sided pyramid, right?
Absolutely.
But it's a little tiny one.
Smaller than the larger.
That's right. It's a little tip, but it is a four-sided pyramid. Now put it back on and it completes the full pyramid. That's what the idea is, that Jesus or the Messiah is the completion of the divine plan of the universe, the completion of God's divine ancient plan that the Egyptians knew about, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, all the ancient peoples of the world understood what God.
I'm so behind and everything. I want to show Santos Bonacci too, because he's just brilliant. Secret esoteric knowledge.
In the brain, in the cranium, there is the cerebrum. And in the cerebrum, and in particular, the claustrum. The claustrum is sitting right there in the middle of the head, virtually. From the claustrum, there is a secretion, brain fluid. And this fluid is an oil. And in ancient times, this fluid was called, in Greek, it's called Christos. It's called the Christ. It's this beautiful fluid which comes from the cerebrum and pours down the spinal cord. It goes down the spinal cord and it reaches the sacral plexus, right next door to the sacrum, which are the 5 second bottommost fused vertebrae bones at the bottom of the spinal column. The bottommost portion of the spinal column is called the coccyx. Then just above that is the sacrum, 5 fused bones. So the sacral plexus is connected to the sacrum. And the fluid which comes from the cerebrum pours down the spinal cord and comes to the bottommost part of the spinal cord. Now, the claustrum is otherwise known as the holy claustrum, simply because of this beautiful oil, this Christos, that is produced and secreted. You see, the word secret comes from secretion, because this secretion is a secret. And the sacrum is the sacred part of the secret. As the secretion pours down the spinal cord and reaches the sacrum, this is the marvelous way in which our body has been designed. And the spinal cord is basically just an extension of the brain. It also does thinking. And you see, the holy claustrum is otherwise known as the Santa claustrum. You see, because this fluid that goes down to the sacred plexus is a sacred fluid. And this is where the story of Santa Claus bringing presents down the chimney comes from. It's a story of physiology. And the Bible is a beautiful manual of physiological regeneration. What happens with this fluid is that every month when the moon is in the sign where your sun was when you were born, every month there is a germ or a seed planted in the solar plexus, which is just above the sacral plexus. And that germ is the oil, the Christ, which is born in Bethlehem, because the the solar plexus is otherwise known as Bethlehem, where the seed, where the Christ is born. And that seed, that oil needs to return whence it came, in the midbrain. You see, as the oil ascends the spinal cord, the vibration of the oil of the Christ increases. And you see, first of all, the oil is differentiated in the pineal gland and the pituitary gland before it is sent down the spinal cord. And the pineal gland is the electric portion, and the pituitary gland is the magnetic portion. So the oil is differentiated and it is brought down the spinal cord via the Pingala and the Ida nerves. These are what is otherwise known as the Kundalini and the Kundabhatha. So it arrives at the sacral plexus and awaits for the germinating of the seed once a month, 12 times a year. And if we are able to transmute that seed and cause it to rise, as it rises in the spinal cord, it eventually reaches the medulla oblongata and the pons and the midbrain, and it crosses the vagus nerve, otherwise known as the pneumogastric nerve. It's a nerve which descends from the brain area, from the pineal and pituitary glands, respectively, and it feeds the lungs and the stomach. It's a network of nerves, and this network of nerves is called the tree of life. And you see, the ancients knew that this seed that is born in Bethlehem once a month is the Christ, and that if one were to abstain from sex during that period, that oil and seed would be saved, and it would rise, and it would burst through the heart chakra, through the throat chakra, and eventually the oil would arrive with its higher vibration, because you see, at the bottom, the oil has a very low vibratory rate. Whereas with proper practices, meditation, breathing, good eating, and good peace, because you see at the...
I just wanted to stop it here and just say it's Lam, vam, ram, yam, ham. Om. I don't know whether 8 here, but it's it's lam, vam, ram, yam, ham, om.
The bottom, the oil has a very low vibratory rate. Whereas with proper practices, meditation, breathing, good eating, and good peaceful behavior, one is able to raise that Christ, that oil, so that it crosses the vagus nerve at the top of the spinal column, the 33 vertebrae of the spinal column. You see, because the Christ is crucified at 33 years of age. When the oil arrives at the very, very top, there awaiting is the optic thalamus, an egg-shaped organ in the middle of the head. When it crosses this pneumogastric nerve, this is called the crucifixion. The oil is not killed and destroyed, but it is magnified 1,000-fold. And the oil then
magnified 1,000-fold. And so when with the 144,000, I've shared this in previous videos, but when you add up all the chakras, like the numbers of the petals and stuff like that, and then you times it by 1,000, it gives you 144,000.
touches the optic thalamus, and for 2.5 days,
which is where Jehovah's Witnesses get their 144 souls, what they believe to be like the amount of souls in heaven. It's no, this has to do with accessing the higher levels of consciousness, which unfortunately is from within, not without, right? So anyone that thinks that that Jesus Christ, you know what I mean, who may have been someone that existed in the past, right? But how like is a symbol of an allegory of a good story, just like so many others, like I've talked about in others, censored, but representations of the sun. And but yeah, like there's no saviors from outside of us that are going to allow us to access our higher levels of consciousness or access the Christ oil and ascend. It's through our own actions and deeds and service and trying to live as neutral, I guess, of a life as possible, but like being of service and of charity and sharing more love in the world and abundance and not getting duped into like what a lot of like Satanists and other groups believe to be like a duality world where we're within this realm, like the more happiness there is, like the more, I mean, I don't want to get into this stuff because there is something to that too. Anyway, I'm going on all these tangents, but you can't like we can't expect others to save us, essentially is the key to all this. And things like trying to eat healthier, be more in nature, be more grounded, and stop drinking and stuff like that. Again, I'm a recovering alcoholic, so like I'm not coming from a place like of judgment. And people like Santos Bonacci and stuff like that, they really put this into perspective. And it's not to take away from I'll stop sharing this. It's not to take away from like the Bible and stuff like that. There's good. It's a beautiful book. Honestly, it really is. But it's also, I'm just gonna here. Oh, and I just wanted to. Santos Bonacci is a genius, and he does say that it was Galatians 4:25 that discusses like this being like the book being allegorical. And I've said this before, but it's 4-24. And so I'll just see if I can share the screen because I'm not looking at it, so I have no idea how I look or how my hair looks or makeup or anything. So I'm sorry if it's ridiculous. So like I look at Gematria, like I've shared this before. I have a subscription. I highly recommend it. And so I don't like, I just looked up Alleg, because if you look up allegorical, nothing comes up. If you search allegory, okay, so Galatians 4:24, which things are an allegory. For these are the two covenants, the one from the Mount Sinai, which gendereth to bondage, which is Agar, and Jordan Maxwell talks about this. So as well about Mount Sinai and Sinai, and it's like like the moon over the like going under the like over the under the mountains, like the old moon and the mountain or something like that. It's anyways that's what it's about. And again, allegorical. It's a symbol of the moon's path and how like in the older religions, depending on where you were in the world, there are people that were moon worshippers, there were people that were sun worshippers, and then there were people that were Venus worshippers. So when you see that crescent on some flags and stuff like that, represented Venus, and I talk about Venus a lot too, being like one of the brightest stars in the sky, if not the brightest star in the sky, and having its own phases. And anyway, and porn. I guess that's sex practice. No. I'm so silly.
And they taught the science of respecting and keeping and guarding and looking after this beautiful. And for 2.5 days, nerve.
I'll just show you the pictures. Oh my goodness.
They're descended from the claustrum, from the cerebellum. And you see, fits at the back of the brain. This is otherwise known as the small brain, channeling that oil, that Christ seed within, so that it eventually is crucified in the middle of the head. You see, the cerebrum brain, which receives images from the ether, from the air, you see, just like the animals do, and they react correspondingly without reason and logic, instinctively. So you see, this is why it is so important to raise the oil, so that one can get out of the lower mind. The lower mind is the solar plexus, and wrought with problems. You see, this is where the elites have known this secret. They have destroyed it because they have gone after the so-called heretics and renegades and unbelievers who have been teaching the true story of the Christ within. and the ascension process within. You see, this rapture that all the Christians are waiting for is not going to happen outside. Ascension is within. One ascends to heaven, the heaved up place, the dome of the cerebrum. You see, those two flaps, those hollowed out hemispheres of the cerebrum, are otherwise known as the cherubim. You see, in the Bible, God says to Moses, you must build the Ark of the Covenant with two cherubim above the Ark, covering over. And inside the Ark shall be placed the manna and the law of God, the two tablets. Well, I'm here to tell you that the optic thalamus is the Ark of the Covenant. And the limbic system and the midbrain, the pons, the medulla oblongata, the pineal gland, these are the holy of holies. This is where one needs to return the good oil. The secret of secrets. This has been known to the ancients. It's in the Bible. It's in all of the legendary books. All of the characters, all of them, they are all in the body. In the middle of the head, there is something known as the hippocampus. The hippocampus is the little horse. This is the white horse that Jesus rides upon. There is something known as Ammon's horn. Yeah, absolutely. Ammon's horn in the middle of the head. Ammon's horn? Goodness me.
Okay, I can. There's so much more from him, but I'm almost at 2 hours again, and so like I did want to show like another like I want to, and I'll make sure that I link it. But germ theory. I'm not going to comment on this one because I don't want to get taken off of YouTube, and this is still on YouTube, so I'm assuming that this is still safe. So
all rights reserved. We reserve all rights.
So there you go.
As many people are awakening to the fact that viruses are nothing more than submicroscopic particles of dead cell debris, dead cell debris, that come from cells dying either naturally from apoptosis, meaning natural programmed cell death, or cells that are dying from necrosis due to overacidity and toxicity in the blood, and that virus particles are neither airborne nor contagious, nor do they cause any disease or illness. A fair too many people are still not understanding that all of germ theory is debunked. This includes bacteria, fungus, and mold. There are no such thing as contagious bacterial infections any more than there are contagious viruses. Both are in the realm of leprechauns and unicorns. Viruses are simply dead cell debris. This is a dying cell, and these are viruses, the debris from the dying cell. And bacteria and germs are simply dead cell debris eaters. These bacteria are simply the body's janitors. Their job is to eat and remove this dying cell's viral debris and transmute that debris into fuel and energy without photosynthesis. As we've pointed out in several previous films, Dr. Fraser of Canada and Dr. Powell of California have experimented with billions of germs of all varieties. That includes all known bacterial forms, but have been unable to produce a single disease by the introduction of germs into human subjects. Dr. Waite tried the same for years to prove the germ theory, but he too could not do so. Dr. Cowan is correct when he states that no one has ever caused any disease in any person or animal by introducing into them just a pure isolated bacteria or virus, ever. The germ theory of disease is the origin of the myth of contagion. It is just a theory, not a fact, and it applies to all bacteria and germs, not just virus particles made out of dead cell debris. And here is the heart of all of the confusion. Though germs themselves are neither contagious, harmful, or toxic, under certain conditions, the byproducts of a small percentage of these germs can be highly toxic and poisonous. Snakes are an excellent analogy for understanding germs and bacterium. Out of 3,000 known species of snakes, only 600 or 20% of those species are even venomous, and only 200 species or 7% of all snakes carry a venom able to significantly harm or kill a human. 90% of those rare dangerous kinds of snakes live in places where humans very rarely go or encounter them, unless purposely looking for them. None of those snakes or their fangs are dangerous to humans. It is the venom byproduct that the snakes can produce that can be harmful or fatal. If you remove the poison glands from a cobra, it can bite you all at once. It will not kill you. You can even cook and eat a poisonous snake. Snakes and snake bites are not fatal or harmful. The poisonous venom byproduct or waste product of 7% of snakes injected into your bloodstream is what is harmful or fatal. Germs are no different. Your own body has trillions of them inside of you at all times, eating your viral dead cell debris and waste products. You can also eat germs, breathe them in, drink them, or even in the case of scientists like Dr. Fraser, Dr. Powell, and Dr. Waite, you can isolate these germs by soaking them or macerating them in a solution, pouring that solution through a nanofilter to get out all other particles and debris, spin that fluid in a density gradient centrifuge machine.
Okay, I'm almost at the 2 hour mark, and that is where it will cut off for me just because of the package I have, the plan I have or whatever. And so about the germ theory, what they're going with the venom and the venom versus the being injected with venom versus ingesting it is it's within our stomach. Our stomachs are able to, like with the acid and everything like that, get rid of a lot of the toxicity of it, making it non-lethal. Whereas if it's if it's in our bloodstream, this is like where you need to get like antivenom, which we get from dogs, cats, and other animals that have been infected with like just partially with venom of various different animals that are poisonous, and where they build up like antibodies to it like naturally, and apparently this is something that doesn't cause them any harm or suffering or anything like that, but their blood is essentially used in order to assist with this anti-venom and yada yada yada. And the same thing with like they're saying like why are we like putting like these toxins in our intravenously and intramuscular and things like that when these are like our known toxins and irritants for our body and can cause harm and stress and stuff like that. So that's why we should be questioning. I can't. No, I'm gonna have to stop it at that, and like because I don't want to get my my video removed, and I'm gonna leave it at that for this wonderful Saturday. And I hope that everyone has a. Oh, I guess before I stop, I just realized that because I'm on StreamYard, no one on YouTube or Rumble are going to see like comments or anything like that. And so like that's why I should like read them out. And so the reason why I kept on showing videos was because I was getting questions asked and or people making comments about the globe Earth model. So I was just repeatedly just giving information to refute it. And so that's why I was going on all these tangents. And so anyways, I'll leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.